Welcome back to another amazing episode of Royally Confident. Here we go, and let's get into it with your amazing host, Janice, your women's confidence mentor. Today's amazing episode is about the self forgiveness you didn't know you needed. Honestly, this is a very important episode. So, if you feeling guilt, shame about mistakes you did in the past, or choosing yourself, feeling guilty, this is the episode for you because this is all about why we should forgive ourselves, how to forgive ourselves, and how you feel after you forgive yourselves. So, the first one is why we should forgive ourselves. So, I've been through a lot of trauma myself. Okay. I was molested when I was younger and I blamed myself for it. I was like 7 years old, a 7 year old, blaming herself for something she couldn't control or knew how to control. I was just a child, right? So I blamed myself a lot for that. I blamed myself for choosing myself. I felt very guilty about choosing myself. I just felt guilty about it for a long time in my life. And I also was blaming my mother for the way I was, who I became, and also the perpetrator who did that to me. I was blaming them. I was just blaming like a bunch of people. And honestly, I didn't know self forgiveness at all because all I was raised on was the church, right? And they were like, forgive them, right? The big word, them, right? And I grew up around church and they never talk about self forgiveness. And self forgiveness is the same as forgiving someone else, but with yourself, with compassion and love that you would give somebody that hurt you. And we need it. It's very important because it helps us move forward and shed all the guilt and the blame off our shoulders finally. And it just makes you feel really light and lighter in your step. And it helps you become the person you want to become. So, one of the ways to do it, so this is how to do self forgiveness, is basically writing down everything that you were guilty of. So I wrote to the person who hurt me and I wrote to them and I didn't forgive for what they did. Like, honestly, that was not cool. I just forgave how I reacted to it, how I constantly blamed them for what I was doing, how I was interacting with men, how I dealt with men, how I dealt with my sex life. And I was just doing that. That's all I was doing was writing down everything I blamed myself for and blamed them for. And then I wrote down, Janice, like, I forgive you. I forgive you for blaming yourself. You were too young to know what the heck that was. It's not your fault. None of that's your fault. You didn't know. It wasn't your fault. And giving me that self compassion and love and understanding, it made me cry. I was crying. I was in tears. But it finally let that pain I constantly had in my heart for it go. Like, I no longer feel this pain and this ache that I had in there. And it helped me better understand my needs and my wants and desires. I knew that I deserved those wants and desires because for a time I didn't think I deserved any of that because of that situation with that person. And forgiving myself for that, it made me really be okay with becoming the person I wanted to become and respecting my needs, my wants, and my boundaries. And this is also goes for if you choose to do something that you didn't want to do or you did want to do at the time, but you still blame yourself. A good example is like maybe you cheated on your spouse or you cheated on a test or you betrayed a friend, right? And all that guilt comes up and you're just self-deprecating yourself to remind yourself not to do it anymore, but really it's just hurting yourself for moving forward. So you're going to want to write down everything and forgive yourself for that. And one of the ways you can say is that we didn't know what we know now. The knowledge that we had when we were younger, it was what it was, and you can't keep torturing yourself about this because you learned from that. It was a lesson you learned, and now you can move forward. But it's basically you forgiving yourself for the past mistakes that you did. I chose myself when I left the United States and I felt really guilty about it. So I had to forgive myself for feeling guilty, and I had to forgive myself um for leaving people behind, leaving my dogs behind with my ex, just leaving everything that people said not to leave behind, I left behind. I had to forgive myself. And honestly, you're probably like, that doesn't work. Well, I had to do it a few times. I had to do it almost every night for like 3 months. Say, Janice, I forgive you for leaving your friends. I forgive you for leaving your dogs. You did what you did was best for you. And that doesn't mean it's wrong. So you're going to have to forgive yourself and show compassion and love to yourself. So I would hug myself. I would give myself mantras. I would tell myself constantly it was okay and just forgive my actions because I know I was hurting other people by leaving. And even though that was really good for me, I felt really guilty. So I had to forgive myself for that. And it took 3 months to finally let that weight get off my shoulders. So, how you could really do it is write letters to yourself about forgiving your mistakes. Not only that, write to the people that you've hurt. This is not to just send it to them, just like write exactly what you want to say. Write everything that you couldn't say or wouldn't say, and give yourself just compassion. Like if your friend was talking to you and telling you the same thing, what would you tell them? You're not going to tell them you're a terrible person. You're going to be like, you were young, dumb, and that's okay. Like you didn't know half the shit you know now, and you learned from that. There's no point in carrying it with you forever because you already learned from that. So you just have to write yourself a forgiveness letter to everything, and you're gonna have to keep repeating it. And I love these forgiveness letters because you can burn them and put the intention behind the burn. Like, I finally released that. Like, I finally forgiven myself for what I did or what I didn't do or what I could have done to prevent a situation. You have to, like, burn it with the intention of just letting go. And you're gonna cry. You're gonna cry and you're just gonna keep crying. And every time you talk bad about yourself, show that person more compassion. Show the version that if someone says, I'm a terrible person, be like, you're not a terrible person. And this is why you're not a terrible person. You make your friends laugh. You show empathy. You're very caring. Just because you made that mistake doesn't take away from all the good things that you've done. You're still this amazing person. It's just showing compassion to your mistakes and who you are as a human being. And what you're going to feel afterwards is so much lighter. It might take several sessions to actually forgive yourself for what you've done. I also did guided meditations that were on YouTube to help me forgive myself for things. So you could use writing letters, guided meditations, different types of podcasts that really like help you forgive yourself because you truly want to forgive yourself and you truly want to let go of this guilt and blame that you've been having inside your heart. Because once you make room, because they're taking up a lot of space, and they're taking up a lot of space from your growth. So when you finally make room and let those things go, you will make room for more growth and becoming the woman that you want to become. So self-forgiveness is really important. And I have a great example. And these are spoilers. So if you did not see the new Avatar movie, yes, that one that just came out. If you did not see the new Avatar movie, you do not want to listen to this part and you could just skip ahead. But if you did see the Avatar movie, then let's talk about that. Because one, the biggest lesson in that movie was self forgiveness. It was literally the only lesson that was the biggest morale in the whole movie was self forgiveness. Aang was still blaming himself for running away from the airbenders when he thought they needed him the most. He felt like he needed to redeem himself by doing all these actions, which totally backfired because he cared too all about his redemption instead of the people around him giving him like sound advice about, let's not go for the staff, like it's too dangerous. But he was so upset still and still hurt and blaming himself for that he looked past all of that. And then when he realized, he broke the staff, he was like, you know what? I have to forgive myself. There was like a moment where he had a realization when Galzo came in and was telling him some wise words, and he realized like, I have to forgive myself. Like they'll always be a part of me regardless if they're not here or not. Like I may be the last airbender, but that doesn't mean they're away from my heart. They're still here. So when he broke the staff and the guy, the evil villain was Toto Tagoro or whatever. He was like floating away, and the cool keywords and was like, "We have to forgive ourselves. You have to forgive yourself." Because he probably blames himself for all of his comrades dying. So he's like, and then you can see that he forgave himself too. Like it was something they didn't even know they needed. And when Aang finally realized all he needed was to forgive himself for the mistake he made, his whole life got so much lighter. And you could see in like the ending credits where he just like improved his whole life. He was like, you know what? I may not have any other airbenders, but that doesn't mean I can't teach people the ways of the airbender. That doesn't mean I can't teach people how to live peacefully. He found more ways to grow into the role he was in because he finally forgave himself for the mistake that he made hundreds of years ago. And that was so important to watch because it inspired me to do this episode because self forgiveness is not mentioned a lot, and I think it's very important to let people know how important it is to forgive yourself for the things you've done, for the things you didn't do, and all the blame you give yourself because of it. And if you really need inspiration, right, that movie is a good one for showing you what's going through all of it. He went through the highs and the lows. They did it on purpose. They were like showing Aang going through the struggles of guilt for what he did and how he finally moved forward. And he forgave himself for it. And he moved forward because of it. And that's why I love the Avatar series because they have a lot of good values and morals about self forgiveness and learning how to move on from trauma and everything, especially Korra, which was like the realest Avatar traumatized Avatar who really showed the PTSD of it all, which she does not get enough credit for real. And Avatar Aang, he went through trauma and stuff like that, but it was more lighthearted compared to Korra, which was more realistic. And I really liked this new movie because they were more realistic about like how he had to forgive himself in order to move forward in his life. And he did, and it was an amazing, a beautiful thing. So self forgiveness is very important and you completely need it in order to keep moving forward. Every blame, every guilt that's heavy on your heart, your shoulders, is going to feel so much lighter and so much weight lifted when you finally forgive yourself for all the things you've done. And thank you for listening to my self forgiveness episode. If you want to know more, let me know. And also, in the Royally Confident Collective, I have a meditation for self forgiveness, and we do go over that in the community, and we go much deeper than my YouTube or my podcast. So, if that's something you're interested in, please let me know in the comments, and have a great day. Also, don't forget to subscribe to my channel for more love, growth, and confidence, because the more you self forgive, the more you get more confidence in yourself with the decisions you make.